We all talk about nature versus nurture, right? Our genes, our upbringing. But what about our news feed? Today, we're going to untangle this really complex relationship between our DNA, our environment, and yep, the screens that are pretty much running our lives.
And just get a load of this number. Over 5 billion. That's how many active social media users there are right now. That is more than half the entire planet. So this isn't just some passing trend, it is a massive shift in how we actually live.
You have to wonder, though, with this constant 24/7 engagement, what is all this screen time really doing to us, especially when it comes to the developing brains of teenagers? Well, let's start by looking right inside the brain. Okay, first up, the social media brain. Let's zoom right in and see what's actually happening on a neurological level when we're scrolling for hours and hours every single day. So get this. Studies are now showing that spending more than 3 hours a day on social media can actually trigger compulsive behaviors. And let's be super clear here, this isn't just about a lack of willpower. On a brain scan level, the patterns look shockingly similar to other behavioral addictions.
So how does it work? Well, it all comes down to the infamous dopamine loop. You know how it goes. You post something, you wait, and then with every single like, every comment, your brain gets a tiny hit of that feel-good chemical, dopamine. It's a really powerful reward cycle, and honestly, it's designed to keep you coming back for more.
And for teenagers, this is a really big deal. Study after study links all this time online to addiction, to depression, and even chronic sleep deprivation. So these aren't just, bad habits. We're talking about platforms that have the power to change our biology in very, very real ways.
Okay, so this raises a much bigger question, right? How can our experiences, whether they're online or in the real world, leave such a permanent mark on our biology? To figure that out, we need to understand how experience literally gets under the skin.
For so long, we've had this debate, nature versus nurture, as if they were two totally separate things. But the answer to how our environment leaves a physical mark on us is in this incredible field of science that shows just how connected those two things really are.
And that field is called epigenetics. Here's a simple way to think about it. Your DNA is the hardware you're born with, but epigenetics, that's the software. And your environment, everything from what you eat to the stress you're under, can install new software, telling your genes to turn on or off.
This is a fantastic analogy. Think of your DNA as the text printed in a book. It's permanent. The epigenome, on the other hand, is like all the notes you make in the margins. The highlights, the bookmarks, all the little things that tell your body which chapters to pay close attention to and which ones to just skim over.
Now, as you can probably guess, this powerful science got a ton of attention in the media. But the way it's often talked about has accidentally created this culture of anxiety and blame, especially for parents.
I'm sure you've seen headlines just like this one. They tend to grab on to the most dramatic part of the science, this idea that the experiences and traumas of your grandparents are somehow passed right down to you, written into your biology.
And this kind of reporting, well, it puts an enormous amount of pressure on parents. It suggests that their every single mood, every action could have some permanent biological consequence for their kids.
And here's the real problem with that narrow focus. It can create so much anxiety and self-blame. But maybe more importantly, critics argue it distracts us from looking at the bigger picture. Things like poverty or pollution, these huge societal factors that we know have a massive impact on health.
So up to this point, we've seen how our environment, our digital world included, can literally change us. But what if that's only half the story? What if our biology is also shaping our environment?
And this is where the story takes a really fascinating twist. Because it turns out we aren't just passively sitting there letting our digital environment wash over us. We are actually active participants in creating it.
A huge study of thousands of twins found something that just blew people away. Our DNA has a major influence on our tendency to use different kinds of online content, which suggests our digital habits aren't just things that happen to us, we are actively drawn to them.
I mean, look at these numbers. They're pretty wild. For online gaming, almost 40% of the difference in time spent from one person to the next can be traced back to genetic factors. 37% for entertainment. This means our online habits have a really significant genetic component.
Okay, so there's a name for this phenomenon. It's called gene-environment correlation, and it basically flips the whole script on how we think about technology. It means we aren't just passive consumers. We are actively searching for and building our own digital worlds based on our innate, genetically influenced tendencies.
So when you put all of this together, what do you get? Well, it's pretty clear that that old, simple debate of nature versus nurture is just obsolete. The real relationship is so much more dynamic and, frankly, more complex than we ever thought.
It's not a one-way street. It's a feedback loop. Our basic genetic makeup nudges us towards certain online choices. The videos we watch, the people we follow, and then those very experiences can leave those epigenetic marks we talked about, influencing how our genes behave.
And this changes everything. It reframes the whole conversation. It suggests we have a lot more agency than we might think. We're not just puppets of an algorithm, we are active players in this whole dynamic.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial question. If our genes nudge us in certain directions, but we still have the power to choose, then what kind of digital world are you consciously building for yourself every single time you log on?